Okay, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Okay, we're starting our shiur. And as we always say, mute your microphones. And when you want to talk, you can unmute it and it's no problem. Parashat HaShavua, Vayera. Last week, Avraham Avinu had his Brit Milah and he's in pain. And the Kodesh Baruch Hu is coming to see him. But there is a very interesting point here. When we look at the psukim, what's written, one minute.
Need to come here.
So Kodesh Baruch Hu is revealing himself to Abraham Avinu. Vayar, and he's raising his eyes and he's seeing three people. And Vayar, and he sees and he runs to them. And that is something very interesting. Vayera elav, we're saying that God is showing himself to Abraham Avinu. And then it's written again, he is looking, like he's seeing. What is he seeing? He's seeing three people. And then again it's written this, and he's seeing. Seeing what? You already wrote that he saw the three people. So what is he seeing now? And this brings us to a very interesting point. That when we're talking about Shechina, about prophecy, about being in contact with God, a prophet cannot get a prophecy if he is in a bad mood. He can only get prophecy if he's happy. Now, Avraham Avinu, from one point of view, from the third day, why should he be happy? He's in pain after the Brit Milah he had. And it's very hot. So why should he be happy? But the real truth is that God, especially at that day, took out the sun. So it's going to be very hot. So nobody's going to go outside. And that in this case, Avraham Avinu wouldn't have any visitors, any guests. And so he can rest and get his powers back. So God reveals himself to him, but Avraham Avinu is not happy. Though he's got no work to do, like he's got no mitzvahs to do, he's got no guests to attend to, so he should be like resting. So he should be in a quite good mood. But Avraham Avinu is not in a good mood. And if he's not in a good mood, it means that he cannot see the Kodesh Baruch Hu, he cannot see the Shekhinah, he cannot see the Holy Spirit, because you can only see the Holy Spirit when you're in a good mood, when you're happy. So what is God doing? God is bringing those three angels that look like people. Avraham Avinu suddenly sees guests. Here he's got people that he can take as guests. So he is happy now. So look what's happening. Vayisainav, he raises his eyes, Vayar, and he sees three people standing there. Vayar, and he sees, and he runs to them. What is he seeing the second time? Now he's seeing the Shekhinah. When he got to a happy mood, now he sees that God is there with him. It's unbelievable when you want to learn Torah that you have to understand that every letter, every word's got an importance. So here also, we learn this from a word that we can understand the sentence without this word. Vayar, v'hineh shlosha anashim, he sees those three people singing, and he runs to them, and he takes them to him. And it's no problem. But then the Torah puts another C. Vayar, he sees three people, sees, what does he see again? But now we understand. He was sad, no mitzvahs to do. God reveals himself to him, Vayira elav Hashem, but he doesn't see God because he's in a bad mood. So God brings him three people. Now he's got a mitzvah to do. And in this minute, he is joyful and suddenly says, wow, God is here with me. So now we ask another question. He says, when we look and we see that, with all due respect, God is standing in front of you. So you're telling God, wait, I'm going now to meet those three people and take them to my tent. God is with you. Nevertheless, the Rambam says that when a prophet gets prophecy, his whole body shakes. And the only thing that he can now visual or see is the prophecy. In other words, it's impossible that he will see something else. This brings me to a beautiful story about the Rav Diskin Zatzal. He used to have in Jerusalem a big table, and he had guests all the time. And especially at lunchtime, he had the whole table full with people that came to eat. And he was sitting in the head of the table and learning while everybody was eating. He had something and he was learning. One day, one of the people that used to come a lot to him, one of the rabbis, also a great rabbi, I don't remember the name, he sees suddenly in the middle of this lunch, he sees that the Rav Diskins is getting up, walking to the other side of the table, which was a very long table, and he's walking to the other side, sits near this old man, and he's like, the old man didn't have any teeth, and he couldn't eat the bread. So he's taking the hard part of the bread away, and he's feeding this old man. Unbelievable, a big mitzvah, very nice. After all of this was finished, this Rav comes to the Rav Diskins and is asking him, I want to understand something. Okay, you did very good what you did, yes. But I want to know how you were so concentrated in the learning from the other side, you were looking in the book. How could you see that the guy at the other side of the table has got problem eating? He says, what do you mean? I want to ask you something. In our parsha, Abraham Avinu, God is with him. He's got the Shekhinah with him, and suddenly he sees those three guests coming, and he leaves God and he goes to take the guests. How? Why didn't you ask there the question? How could he see those three people when he is all concentrated in prophecy, when he's all concentrated with talking with God? It says when there is chesed to do, you see, you feel, you see. There's a story about, I think, one of the Lubavitcher Rebbes, Baal Tanya, the old Rebbe, that he was sitting in the third floor, and his son was sitting in the first floor, and there was a baby crying. His baby was crying, and he was concentrating in his learning, and suddenly the door opened, and the old Rebbe is in the doorway, and he's going to the baby and starting to wiggle him like to coming down. So the son of the Rebbe says, what happened? He says, what, you didn't hear the baby crying? He says, no, I was concentrating in my learning. How did you hear from the third floor? He said, if the Jewish baby is crying, I hear it. Doesn't matter what you do. When somebody needs you, you feel it. You see, this is exactly the point. We are so, how do you say, we lost our sensitivity. We don't feel other people. Avraham Avinu is trying to teach us that you have to feel people. You have to feel that somebody needs you. Doesn't matter what you do. You stop and you go and help him. And this is a big lesson for us. To understand and realize the greatness of Avraham Avinu that got to a level of loving God in a way that what is loving God? Because, okay, everything is okay. How is it really? Is it not a chutzpah to leave God in the middle and go for a meeting? Imagine to yourself that you have a meeting with this big shot who is going to make your destiny. He's going to make you rich. He's going to make you healthy. He is everything. Like if it's Bill Gates, or you imagine to yourself one of the most important people in the world, and you have a meeting with him. And suddenly in the middle of the meeting, you see a poor guy in the street that needs charity. And you tell this big shot, okay, wait for me. I'm going down. Let's say you're in the 40th floor in New York, and there is a poor guy in the middle of the street. How can you even see him? And being in the middle of the meeting, how can you even think about it? But that's exactly the point. Avraham Avinu is teaching us that you have this real love. Loving God is to love to do good to people, is loving each other. And if you love somebody, you feel, we have those sometimes with twins, that you have one twin on one side of the world and the other one at the other side of the world, and they feel each other. How? And this is a scientific thing, fact. A lot of survey were done on this thing, and it proved that yes, the siblings they sometimes feel, and the same thing is sometimes a mother feels that something is wrong with her son or with her daughter. What is it? This is sensitivity. This is being real mensch. This is being a loving person. So you feel the things around you. Even if you're in one thing, you feel that somebody needs you. Unfortunately, it sounds to us like science fiction. How can it be? But it doesn't. By the way, this week, when I was talking about this thing, one of the guys told me he's dealing with, he's got not an old age home, he's got a facility that let's say older people come to him and have, like, they do things the whole day, or then they go back home. And the last week he was sitting in his room, and suddenly he had a feeling that something is wrong. And he went to the other room, and he saw this old guy who had problems. And I said, so this is exactly what I said. That means that you are a son of Abraham Avinu. That shows that you are a real Jew. That shows that you've got real love in yourself. And sometimes we have this sense that something is wrong or something is good. We have this feeling. Where does it come from? It's come from inside. This is what Abraham Avinu gave us. This is the big lesson. So one told me a story. It says, imagine to yourself, a mother didn't see her son for a few years. And Baruch Hashem, now they meeting. Can you imagine to yourself, it's not Corona time, the hugging and the kisses on everything. And suddenly the son stops 1 minute and he takes a bunch of flour and gives to his mother. What would you say? Is this wrong? On the contrary, it's the best thing to do. And that's exactly the point, because we see here, like, it looks like Abraham is telling the Shekhinah, God, you wait, I'm going to do something else. It's a chutzpah, but it's not a chutzpah. Because if we think it's a chutzpah, we didn't understand what we're talking about. Chesed, loving each other, love and mercy, is seeing the Shekhinah. That's the meaning of being connected to the Shekhinah, being connected to the Holy Spirit, being connected to the Neshama, being connected to God. In other words, he's not leaving God. God is with him. Because when you do good things, you are together with God. And this is a big lesson. Some people think, I will sit in the yeshiva and I will learn from the whole day around and got nothing to do with the outside world. Is this right or wrong? Some people will say, what do you mean? It's a Talmid Chacham. He sits the whole day and learns. It's wrong. That's the lesson from Abraham Avinu. It's not only talking. It's not only learning. It's doing the good in the eyes of God. Learning is very important. But practice. Look at Abraham Avinu. Abraham Avinu was the one who was chosen to be the father of our nation. Why? You know why? Because Abraham Avinu had the power of love at such a high level that he transferred this love to us. We have it in us. Because in last parsha it's written that Abraham Avinu, God is promising, the one is going to get out of your guts, of your body, is going to be your descendant. He's going to be your continuum. He's going to be the one who is going to get everything. But with all due respect, Not Avraham Avinu is pregnant. Sarah Imenu is going to be pregnant. So why is he saying it's going to go out of your body, of your guts? And that's exactly the point. First of all, Abraham and Sarah are one. That's a big lesson to learn. The unity of a couple in the meaning of being one. Then the lesson is that Abraham Avinu, he was so in loving God that it became a part of his DNA. And this DNA goes through Abraham Avinu to all his children and great-grandchildren and to us. That's the power we have. That's the power of Abraham Avinu. So, seeing this and understanding Abraham Avinu, and we see Abraham Avinu is influence is all over. This is why he was chosen, and not, for example, we have Shem Ve'ever, was a famous yeshiva. The son of Noah had a famous yeshiva, but nobody hears about this yeshiva. Only Avraham Avinu is the one who takes the message to the next generation, because they all close themselves. And by the way, sometimes they had a good reason, because sometimes the influence outside is so bad that you have to keep yourself in walls in order not to be influenced by the bad environment and the bad influence. Like we see in our parsha, the people of Sodom. Sodom was so corrupt that God decided to destroy it. And you see it, Avraham Avinu will understand what is Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu is asking God to save Sodom. Those corrupt, evil people. Because Avraham Avinu is all love. And this is why he feels God. People sometimes ask, how is it that Avraham Avinu kept the whole Torah? We didn't receive the Torah yet. And he at Pesach, and how? How did he know? You know this feeling when you look at your children and you're so close to them that you feel before they talk, you know what they want. Did you have this feeling once or twice or 3 times? Or when your mother felt or father felt what you wanted before you even spoke? This comes from love. When you are connected with a bond of love, you feel things that are not even spoken. As we said before, a sibling, a twin that lives in the other side of the world feels what's happening with his brother or sister in the other side of the world. Why? Because of this bond of love, because of this power of love that is so deep and so spiritual that you feel things even for a distance. It's like the feeling sometimes we have something is wrong or something is good. A strange feeling, which is telling us this connection between the physical world and the spiritual world. And that is human being. What are we? We are a combination of, apart from earth, the body, and apart from heaven, our neshama. And only with this combination we can do the right thing. There is so much to talk about. Just seeing, for example, the power of Avraham Avinu, be taking visitors. There is a famous story told, I think about the Rab Soloveitchik. Oh, let me see. It's Rab Soloveitchik. 1 minute. Oh, sorry, with the Brisker Rab. I didn't want to make a mistake. With the Brisker Rab, a famous story. And the Brisker Rab, the Rav Soloveitchik, he used to every once in a while to wear normal clothes and go out and see what's happening around. He didn't want people to recognize him, so he can go without interfering. And one day, he goes out and starting a storm, and it's very cold. And he is, and his, how do you say, balagule, the one who takes him, the driver, they have to find a place to go in. And they know this, they see this Jewish guest house, and they knock at the door, and nobody's answering. Knocking, nobody's answering. So they're knocking harder because it's a matter of life or death. It's cold. Who knows how many degrees underneath the zero and snowing. You cannot survive outside. Baruch Hashem, eventually the door is open and the owner is standing there. He says, what do you want? He says, we need a room. So I've got no room. The whole hotel is occupied. Everything is, I've got no room. He says, but we cannot stay outside. And after pleading and thinking, he says, okay, come in. You can sleep here on the corridor. Okay. So they lie down. And of course, the Rav Soloveitchik gets out a candle, lights it, and he wants to learn. The owner comes in. What are you doing? People are sleeping. Turn off the light. Rav Soloveitchik says, okay, no problem. So they're lying there on the floor, in the corridor, and the Rav Soloveitchik is learning by heart. It's got no problem, with no light. Suddenly, noise, carriages coming, wow, a whole balagan, and what's happening? Wow. And the light is on in the whole place, and smells of good things being cooked. Admor Koidanov came, a famous Admor, famous Rebbe, and the doors open. He came with a few, with all his, all the Hasidim. They're going in and everything, and they prepare food and noise and everything. Suddenly, nobody needs to sleep. Nobody disturbed by the light. So the Admor Koidanov, he wants to go and wash hands. So when he goes in the corridor to wash hands, he sees somebody that he looks familiar. He bends down. He says, "Huh? You should bear? Brisker up? What you lying down here on the floor?" The owner of the place suddenly realized that the guy that he didn't want to let in, and eventually let him sleep on the corridor, and also shouted at him when he lit the candle, is the Gdolador, is the Rebbe Brisk. The Reb Soloveitchik. He couldn't believe it. He came to the Rebbe. He said, sorry, I didn't know who you are. I would, of course, let you in and give you the best room in the house and think. Sorry, said Reb Soloveitchik. I'm not going to let it go like this. I'm not forgiving you. No, you have to forgive me. I didn't know who I says. You didn't know who I am? What does it matter who I am? I am a Jewish guy who needs help. Doesn't matter if I'm the Rav Soloveitchik or not. Eventually, he says, you want me to forgive you? You come and you stay with me for 2 weeks. So you learn how to behave to people. So, this is Rav Soloveitchik, the Brisker Reb. So he says, okay, no problem. I want you to. He says, okay, you come to me after 2 weeks. I'll forgive you and everything is okay. This guy went to the Rav Soloveitchik and he stayed there for 2 weeks and he learned what it is to be a mensch, what it is, what it is to loving other people. And when he came back, they say that he was the greatest machnis orchim in the whole region. Unbelievable story. And this story is, the Rav Soloveitchik is asking him, I want to ask you a thing. We were talking about Avraham Avinu, that he didn't care. He even prayed for the people of Sodom. And he was taking guests, didn't matter who they were. But there is another figure in the Parsha that also took guests. Lot. Lot is taking guests in Sodom, which is forbidden to take guests, in risking his life. But when he is saved, you would think that he was saved. Why? Because of his achnasat orchim, risking his life to have guests at home. No. The reason he was saved is because of Avraham Avinu, because when Avraham Avinu with Sarah went to Egypt, he didn't tell that Sarah is really his wife. And because of this was the point that God saved him. Because of Avraham Avinu, because he did this. Why? I would think that Achnasat Orchim he did, taking guests in Sodom, which is the forbidden thing. If you did something like this, you should have been killed. Would be much more important than just not telling something. But here is a big lesson. Achnasat Orchim. It was something that he got from Avraham Avinu as a part of his being. As I said before, we got from Avraham Avinu the love. It's a part of us. And also Lot got it. But there is another interesting thing. When we see Avraham Avinu taking guests, is written Shlosha Anashim, people. But when Lot is receiving the guest, it's written Malachim, angels. In other words, this is not such a big deal. To take angels, who is going to touch you? Who is going to do anything to you? Those are angels. So this is not a big deal. It's in you, unfortunately, we have it with the Arabs, that they are, from the point of view of Achnasat Orchim, they are unbelievable. If you come, they'll give you everything when you are their guest. But the minute you turn your back, they can stab you in the back. And I'm not comparing Lot to this, but Lot, this was not the highlight of his life from the point of view of doing the good in the eyes of God, because it was no big deal to take angels in. And that's what Rebbe Soloveitchik told to this guy. It's not a big deal to take the Rebbe Mikoli Dainov in as a guest. But a simple Jew who comes in, to take him as a guest, that's a big deal. That's a thing to do. And that's a big lesson. And to end this shiur, let's see another hospitality, which is from the people of Sodom. Lot takes those two angels, as we discussed. The people of Sodom find out. What do? They're all getting there, and they want him to take those two guests out. They want to deal with them. Unbelievable. But the point there is, the angels blind them. So what's happening when the angels blind them? Do they leave the place? Normal thing to do. You don't see anything. Leave the place. Vayil'u limtso hapatach, says the Torah. They were still looking for the entrance door in order to take those angels by force outside, like the people. They thought they are people, not angels. So we see here three kinds of hospitalities. The first one is Avraham Avinu. He doesn't care who the guest is. The only thing that motivates Avraham Avinu is the love. The love of God, which means love of people. As we said in the beginning, leaving God to take the guest is not leaving God, is going with God, is giving a bunch of flour to God. Then we have Lot, that he also looks like he's risking his life to take visitors, to take guests, but the real truth is, he is risking nothing, because who can touch angels? And taking angels in, that's not a big deal. And from the third side, what do we see? The people of Sodom, that they are willing to take the guests out and kill them and do whatever they want to them, even if they are blinded and cannot see anything. This is a big lesson for us. The lesson leads to the thing, Olam Chesed Yibaneh. The whole world is built on Chesed, on love. And this is the big lesson from Avraham Avinu. This is why God is saying, you are the chosen one. You are going to bring this nation. You are the leader. You are the father of Am Israel. Why? Because you made it that love became a part of your DNA. And this is what we should work on. We've got it inside us. We just have to take it out. I hope that you enjoy the lesson. All the best, and have a nice week ahead of you.